we go, starting. Okay, this is, I'm Mark, and we're here at Salt, which is one of the coolest restaurants with the best food here in Valencia. And I'm fortunate enough to have the owner of Salt and creator of Salt, Raf, here. And he's going to tell me about this wonderful restaurant and coffee shop and his whole life. But first of all, tell us about the fluorescent art a little bit that you've got here, because everybody talks about it. The first thing they see when they come in is they look at this incredible, it just blows your mind. You're walking up the steps in here. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, the actual decoration here was inspired by a shop I had in London, in Camden Town in London. That place was called The Far Side. It was basically a very funky type of shop that sold all sorts of different neon type products, clothing, hand-painted neon clothing, throws, thousands of different things. Unfortunately, I had to close it because it had to be redeveloped. The area was redeveloped by the government. But I brought some of that feeling of the neon psychedelic thing to Valencia when I opened this restaurant.
Now, did you bring all the supplies from London, like the fluorescent paints and the lights, or did you find that here?
Well, the CDs that I've actually painted, they were actually my own music collection, which I just don't play CDs anymore.
So they're real CDs?
They're all real CDs, yeah. And
you hand-painted every one?
Yeah, I painted all the CDs, right, and you use them as a decoration, as a backdrop to the entrance of the place.
Incredible.
The posters, these posters as you see on the walls, they were actually posters that I sold in my shop in London. You know, and I sold many different types of posters. So I had plenty of those left over, and I used them like as a wallpaper. I mean, this I just painted it for a bit of fun, you know, and it's a great hi. Right, come on in. How you doing?
Good.
You okay?
They want mango seeds.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, I painted this as a bit of fun, and it's a great place, right? You know, to take a photo opportunity.
Yeah.
And especially the younger customers.
I bet a lot of people take photos of that. It's
they
really
do.
Cool.
They do. Yeah, they do. And you know, they put them on Facebook, and you know, Spice Restaurant, and it basically highlights that we're here. You know.
It's pop art, in my opinion. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's still not quite finished yet. there's a lot of filling still to do on the ceiling. You know, I could still probably put another like 25 to 30 CDs up on that ceiling, and probably the same up on this ceiling as well. Still not quite finished, but it's getting there. It's getting there. Yeah, anything I can find that's interesting, I'll put on the wall and do that. You know. Yeah, so it's a nice, happy sort of thing to have as you walk up the stairs.
Yeah, I love it. I love
Very
it.
colourful.
It makes a great impression when you first come in here.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we'll pause it here and we'll start the interview here in just a minute.
Sure.
So tell me,
Takes a bit of setting up, doesn't it?
yeah, it's all right. Tell me more about London. Like my viewers all know that my daughters live in London. I spent a lot of time there.
Sure.
And so you were in London. What was your background in London? Like,
well, basically, basically, I opened up this amazing. You can call it a shop stall. It was big, you know, and it was very colourful. Let's put it that way, you know.
With all the fluorescent stuff like we saw here.
Yeah, and it was called the Far Side Psychedelic Emporium.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, that was the name of it, and it was very different, you know. Not many places like that around, obviously, and it was a throwback really to the '60s.
I remember this place from the '60s and '70s. I remember buying the posters and everything.
Yeah.
The head shops, the guitar shops, like
sure.
They're all like that. They had the neon everywhere.
Exactly. So, you know, it was a funky place. I had live DJs playing there, and we sold all the latest psytrance music, you know, what the DJs were playing, that's the music that we sold. The atmosphere was electric. It was just an amazing place.
What were your hours of operation?
We opened up there at 9 in the morning, and we closed 10 o'clock in the evening.
Wow, long day.
It was a long day. Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
a long day. Now, did you have any partners, or was it just you?
No, just me. Yeah, I had five staff working in the place. Yeah.
Now, London's really expensive for rent and stuff, isn't it? I mean,
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, most of the people I had working for me, right, they were they weren't British, you know.
Yeah.
They were from you know, Greece, Portugal.
because of the EU, they could all work there, huh?
Yeah. You know, they were all sort of like foreign people rather than English people that would work for me there, you know. And it was a great place, really fantastic. I was so sorry to lose that place.
Now, you told me something about parties with bands and stuff, like Led Zeppelin, and
Sure.
can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Well, I was lucky enough, you know, and it was just a matter of luck that one of my very good friends happened to be one of the top promoters of the day, and his name was Mel Bush. And through him, I got to meet some of the most famous bands, obviously, you know, in the world, you know. Led Zeppelin, Supertramp, David Bowie, you know, all those people. You know, I would spend time backstage with them.
Now, what years were this when you were meeting these bands?
Oh, we're going back there, 1972.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the 70s and you and what you were doing back in the 70s in London. That's really interesting.
Sure, yeah. What I was doing at that time, I had this place also. It was a restaurant. It was open until 4 o'clock in the morning. It was based on the Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah. I've been to many of them.
It was based on the Hard Rock Cafe. In actual fact, I might even have, if you just hold on a moment, I did this.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it was based on the Hard Rock Cafe. And in actual fact, right, you know, this place was open at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And it got really busy from sort of 2 a.m. when all the clubs closed.
Right.
When all the clubs closed, there was queues down the street. But what we used to do, what we used to serve there, you know, we used to serve jumbo burgers, homemade burgers done on a charcoal grill.
Yeah.
Steaks done on a charcoal grill. Kentucky Fried Chicken, all that type of stuff.
Wow.
You know, and you know, homemade apple pie, blueberry pie, you know, just all made on the spot, you know. It was a great place, and that was open until 4 o'clock in the morning. But at the same time, right, I was also entertaining some of the rock bands at the same time I had that place. Mel Bush, who I spoke to you about earlier, he actually helped fund this place, you know, which was called the Year of the Flood. He helped fund it, and he put money into it, and in return I would help him out, you know, doing stuff for him, like, you know, for example, you know, after parties for Led Zeppelin.
Oh, right. And I tell you, got to go into detail about after parties with Led Zeppelin. Tell me about like the first one you ever did, what that was like.
Yeah. So basically, right, you know, with bands like Zeppelin, right, they sort of get enough of groupies and this and that, and then, you know, like when they've done a gig, they just want to chill out and relax. Right. Okay. Yeah. So basically, my job at that time was to find a place, a venue, right, where, you know, they do their gig, and then they could go somewhere and relax without any hangers-on, you know, without any groupies. Yeah. And you know, I would lay all that on for them. You know.
Wow.
You know, for example, the last thing I done for them was actually I hired out a striptease club as a bit of a joke, and I got strippers as well, stripping for them, you know, just for a bit of a laugh, you know, and then basically, you know, the whole band were there without hangers on and stuff, just, you know, just Mel, me, right, the roadies, that basically was it, you know.
But a band like Led Zeppelin has a pretty big crew, don't they?
Yeah, but no, they didn't bring their crew with them, the big crew. No, it was basically just them. There was their main roadie would be there, right? And then Mel Bush himself, right, the promoter would be there, and me, you know. So it was a very sort of closed little sort of thing, party thing, you know. And it was great. It was great, you know. And you know, they like a drink, and especially John Bonham. You know, I mean, I just saw him slowly get drunk on pints and pints of beer. And I think we had to carry him out that night back to his hotel, you know, because he got so drunk. But, you know, that's just one of the things, you know, that I used to do.
Well, tell me about some of the other parties that you had with Led Zeppelin.
Well, there was some other little private things that we used to do. There was one at Mel Bush's home, right?
Yeah, what's his home like?
Beautiful. It was in a place called Sandbanks. And that was the most beautiful part of Bournemouth, you know, sort of coastal beaches and beautiful views. Really nice place, you know, really nice. And then, you know,
is he still alive?
Sorry?
He's still alive?
He's just about still alive. He's old. Yeah, I think he must be getting on to 83 now.
That's
84.
not that, you know, nowadays that's not that old.
No, I suppose not. I suppose not.
All depends on how much you partied back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
So you can pay for that at our age.
Sure, absolutely. And then there was the Elton John party.
Yeah, what was that like? Tell us
well,
about
that was great because that was Mel Bush who was at that time also promoting Elton John at that time, and Elton John had a party at a place called the Palace Court Hotel in Bournemouth. Of course, I was invited as part of that side of things. And that was great. That was really
So
good.
what's Elton John like?
He was quiet, you know, not big-headed, you know, that's for sure. He was quiet and but gregarious in a way, you know. But no, he was
Going back to Led Zeppelin, what were the band members like there? Were they friendly? And did you talk to them?
very friendly.
Very friendly, yeah.
Very friendly, really. You know, just like ordinary people. You know,
Wow.
they're just like.
They didn't put on airs or anything when you were alone
None
with
at
them. They were
all.
just like
And
normal guys.
The thing is, they wanted to get away from all that. You know, they just wanted to be. You know, when you know, when they wanted their quiet moments, right? They just wanted to be themselves. You
Right,
know, and not be Led Zeppelin. You know, they just wanted to be. You know,
Regular guys,
just nice guys. You know.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean,
That's good to hear.
they were great times. You know, they were really great times. And you know, when I look back on those times, it's you know, I was very lucky to be
Very lucky. It was history. Now, did you when you went to these parties, did you go alone? Did you bring a date, or
Sorry?
did you bring a date on these parties, or did you go by yourself, or
No, I went by myself.
by yourself?
I was actually married.
Oh, you were? Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
was married at the time. You know, I was married. I was married for a long time to a Finnish woman, very beautiful model.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she was from Helsinki, but she wasn't. She didn't really have much interest in that type of stuff. You know? Yeah, you know, she just, you know.
So you said, Darl, I'm going to go to a party with Led Zeppelin and Elton John.
but
She
she
said,
didn't-
I'll stay home.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she didn't. You know, she wasn't really interested in that type of stuff. You know. Yeah,
Interesting.
that's how it was. You know, but it was good. You know, they say opposites attract.
Yeah, yeah.
And she was total opposite from me, but we gel well together. You know.
Did you have children?
Unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, because she did have a problem. You know, have children. She was quite a bad diabetic.
Okay.
You know, type 1 diabetic.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know, that sort of interfered in having kids because,
Right.
you know, at that time anyway, you know, I think now it's not the same, but at that time they were saying, you know, when you're type 1 diabetic, it can be quite dangerous to give birth, you know.
Yeah, I think I've heard that, yeah.
So basically, you know, we never had children, you know, at all. You know.
So tell me about some of the other celebrities or bands that you work with. You said something about a limousine.
Yes. I had this, it was a funeral car, but unlike any other funeral car you've
A
ever
used
seen.
one or a new one?
Well, it was no, it was a vintage.
Vintage.
Austin Princess.
Ah.
It was an Austin Princess, right? And to look at it, you know, it looked like an old gangster car. It had the, you know, the run boards, you know, where the gangsters used to stand, and it had like a wind-up window in the front.
What year was it?
Sorry?
What year was it? In the car?
This was 19. Well, I had that car from 1969.
Oh wow, classic.
Yeah, it was already very old, you know.
Was it a car from like the 50s or 40s or
1930s.
1930s?
It was
Wow.
1930s Austin Princess. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I used to drive some of the bands around in that. What I'd done with it, right? You know, I stylized it inside. I put like a bar inside it at the back where the coffins go.
Yeah.
And there were rugs where you could sort of sleep, and you know, all sorts of other things you could do. And you know, it was quite a different type of vehicle.
And how many people could you fit in there?
You could fit in there maybe 10 people.
Wow.
Comfortably. Yeah,
Wow.
10 people.
And you just drive around the city of London and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I used to actually pay people to drive it around in my hometown, right? Because I also used to advertise my restaurant with that vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was all logoed on the outside.
great idea, yeah.
There was logos, right? And you know, it was like an advertising wagon too for the actual restaurant that I had, which was called the Year of the Flood. And you know, it worked. It worked. It really worked, because you know, you really did notice that car, you know, wherever it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was beautifully painted on the outside in yellow and black as well, right? And it had like yellow curtains in the windows, you know, so you could get your privacy.
So it had the whole psychedelic look to it, and
Had a psychedelic look to it. Tell you one funny story about that particular vehicle. I parked it near my restaurant, right? Just a few roads away, and the actual road that I parked it on was on a little bit of a hill.
yeah.
Okay, and I thought I locked it up, the vehicle up, right? And I went into my restaurant, and I was in the restaurant for something like about 10-15 minutes doing some things. I came back, and the vehicle was gone.
Oh God.
Disappeared. I was very close to this vehicle, you know. I mean, I loved it, you know. So you know, I was on the phone to the. Hey, somebody's stolen my hearse. Somebody's stolen my hearse. Please help, you know. And the police came there, you know, and you know, there was a big fuss made about it because it was a hearse, of course,
Yeah,
right?
of course, yeah.
And I learned not long after that because I forgot to put the handbrake on,
Oh no.
yeah, it slowly rolled down the hill by itself without a driver, right? Somebody thought it was a phantom hearse without a driver. It virtually passed out, and it rolled itself right into the main thoroughfare, the main road of the town, and blocked up the traffic on both sides of the road.
Wow.
And I got into a lot of trouble for that from the police, right?
But thank God it didn't run into anybody or crash into another car.
Luckily, no, right?
lucky.
But you have to see the funny side of it, right?
Yeah.
A runaway hearse with no driver,
Yeah. Phantom hearse.
etc., etc. You know,
Yeah.
just it's like one of these funny Monty Python sketches.
Hmm.
So that was a funny thing with that vehicle. You know, that was amazing.
So whatever happened to it?
I tell you what happened to that, right? It needed it sort of broke down, right? Of course, spare parts.
Oh, I can imagine.
Spare parts for those vehicles are very hard to come by, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, not far from my actual restaurant, there was like a car park, you know, and it was like a council corporation car park. I thought, okay, it'd be safe there. And I thought I'd leave it there until I get the spare part to get it going again, right? Because it was quite near the restaurant. And then I went back there a couple of days later. I got the part all ready to go, and the actual council, the Bournemouth Council, impounded it and taken it to their car pound. Right?
Yeah.
And basically, right, they were asking me for hundreds of pounds to retrieve, in fines, to retrieve the vehicle.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, hundreds of pounds, right? And I explained to them, right, the problem.
Yeah.
You know, that I just left it there because it wasn't going anymore. I was waiting for a part, you know, etc., etc. It sort of fell on deaf ears. And then basically it became a matter of principle. They wanted all this money from me, right? And then basically they just took the vehicle, and that was the last I saw of it. And I think somebody told me they put it into some sort of vintage car auction.
Oh yeah, I made a bunch of money.
I made a bunch of money out of it, right? But that's how I lost that vehicle, you know.
And people wonder why we live in the Philippines, because things like that don't happen here.
Well, it wouldn't happen, you know. But it's a funny story. It's a strange one,
too,
you know.
geez.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so that era, you know, of the restaurant thing there, you know, because it was hard work, you know, it was open till 4 o'clock in the morning.
So you were, as an owner, you were there, like I've never been here to Salt, without seeing you here. I've never been to this restaurant without seeing you here.
I'm always here.
I've been like maybe 10 times, I've always seen you here.
Yeah, because I take responsibility for the place, you know, and I want it to succeed, etc., you know. But the restaurant that I had in that era, you know, the Hearst era and the Led Zeppelin era, you know, because the hours were so long for that particular place, I decided to sell it on, right? And I thought I'd sold it, right, to an Austrian guy who was actually a customer of the restaurant. And what happened with that, right? I didn't get 1 penny for it because my lawyer signed over all the paperwork to this guy. He signed over everything to him, right? But the guy never gave him the money.
Oh, jeez.
Never gave him the money.
And you had no recourse at all?
Well, I was a bit green at the time, you know. I knew nothing about the law society in those days. You know, there's a body of lawyers. You know, it's like a law thing called a law society. I could have maybe gone through them somehow, you know. But in the end, right, the guy kept making excuses, right, about paying the money to my lawyer, right. But it's actually the lawyer's fault.
Yeah,
it was the lawyer's fault because he should never have signed over the place without getting the money, you know. So basically, that was gone.
Why the restaurant business? Like you've been in that you starting back in the 1960s or 70s with the restaurant business?
Yeah, 70s, early 70s.
And you knew anything about it? You just got into it?
Yeah, I just.
Because it's a hard business.
Yeah, I just sort of, you know, I was looking for something that, you know, it fell on my lap. These premises came about, right? And they were right smack centre of town, and the rent was cheap, right? And you know, I was offered these premises, and I thought to myself, well, what can I put there, you know? And I thought, okay, let's put something funky, you know, something that's going to make money, you know. And then I went to London and I researched the Hard Rock Cafe there, what they were doing and stuff, you know. And basically, I sort of ripped them off, really, you know. You know, in a way. You know, but you know, it was successful, and it did make money. You know, but the thing is, the hours got to me. I couldn't. I took on several managers, but they were all ripping me off.
Yeah, when you had cash coming in, it's.
Well, I had a lot of cash coming in. I used to take the money to the bank in cardboard boxes. I used to put it in the back. I used to put it in 4 o'clock in the morning. You haven't got time to count all that money. I was busy. I'm telling you. You know. So I used to put the money in cardboard boxes, put it in the back of the hearse. Where the coffin should go, and then take it to my bank, right? And I would dump this box on the bank counter. Please count all this up for me, you know. And that's how it was, you know. And you know, it was successful, but you know, I just had enough of it. It was taking up too much of my life.
Now the psychedelic shop,
that came much later.
Farside, that was afterwards. That was even more successful, or was it easier business to run, or was it?
Well, it was easier because
I think a restaurant would be hard, like ordering food and keeping.
Well, the thing is, you know, with the restaurant, right? I had several managers who I found were ripping me off as well. You know, and they couldn't be. You see, there was no such thing as CCTV in those days. Yeah. So you couldn't just sort of keep an eye on things that way, you know.
You weren't there.
Well, you had to rely on trust, and you know. Then I found that you know there was discrepancies in the takings and stuff like that, and in the end I just couldn't handle it anymore. I thought, let's just get rid of it. I wanted to go travelling anyway, you know. You know, I was young, you know. I wanted to go travelling.
How old were you?
I was only 23.
Wow, that's young to have a business and everything. Wow.
Yeah. It was a big deal too. You know, so basically, you know, I never got the travelling bug out of my system. You know, what I'd done, I'd gone into business before I got that out of my system.
And what was your background? Did you go to university or?
No.
Really?
No, not at all. I hated school.
I was the same way. I dropped out.
I was a dropout from school. I just didn't like school at all. But you know,
have you ever worked for anybody else? Actually, had a job, or have you always done your own thing?
Never. No, I've always more or less sort of been self-employed, doing things on my own back. You know.
Now, how old are you now, if you don't mind telling me?
69.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm 65, so.
You're 65. Yeah. So, you know, but I still feel okay, you know.
No, yeah. Now, opening a restaurant in the Philippines, opening any business in the Philippines, I would think it'd be a challenge and a risk, and
Well,
I
it
know
is
a
a
lot of
very
guys
big-
talk about it, but I've also seen a lot of them fail.
Well, I had 2 fail already, another 2.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah.
Where were they?
Well, I not actually failed through my fault. You know, it failed through circumstances. I had I opened up a beautiful. I think maybe I did tell you, a place in Subic,
Yeah.
a beautiful beach called Beloy Beach, and I opened up a beautiful nightclub there. Yeah, a nightclub, restaurant.
Is that when all the sailors were still there and the military base was still open, the Navy base?
The military base was still not there. You know, it was that was no, it wasn't. But you know, Subic was Subic Bay itself. It became more like a shopping centre and this and that and everything.
And when
else.
was this approximately?
It's 12 years ago.
Okay.
So I opened up this place there on a beautiful piece of tropical beach, really nice, right? I brought my own designers from London.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 designers from London to build this place, and it cost me a lot of money. It cost me like about 8-9 million pesos.
Wow.
Yeah, and I rented the land from a councillor, and he seemed fine, you know. He spoke very good English, etc., etc. It took about 4 months to build the place, and it was nice because it was right on the beach, so you could go from the actual restaurant nightclub, right, and you could straight in for a swim and come back. It was nice.
Oh, how
you know?
nice is that? Yeah.
It was. I had a lot of beautiful hostess girls, right? I had the costumes made for them in Portugal by a designer. It was all, you know, it was all really beautiful, and it was also there was all a lot of UV active lighting going on there too.
Wow.
Beautiful bar, everything was nice. You know, nice restaurant. Even had a pool room. Had a pool room as well. Yeah, had a beautiful pool room.
And so that business was doing really well, and then what
It
happened?
was doing really well, and I thought, well, this is not. I didn't actually open it, you know, to make money, you know, because my place in London was still going, the Far Side.
Oh, you still had Far Side?
I still had the Far Side
wow.
at the same time, but I had a good manager. I wasn't needed in London. I wasn't needed in London at all. But I didn't want to live in London anymore. So I was looking
Why not?
basically. Well, I just had enough of that type of fast life, you know. You know, I wanted to be, well, more or less retire. You know, I like warm weather, tropical type climate scenario type thing. You know. So when I found myself in the Philippines on vacation, I was offered this piece of land purely by accident.
You just came here on vacation then and
Yeah,
discovered
it just happened, you know. And
Where
I
did
said,
you go on vacation? Where's the very first place you went to in the Philippines?
Well, that was the place.
Well, that was there,
Beloy, yeah,
Subic Bay.
It was Beloy in Subic, you know. And you know, I went there basically by accident because my friend, he got offered a job in Manila as a teacher.
Yeah.
And you know, he said, "Why don't you come along, right?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, why not?" And then when he'd finished his business, we had a few days to spare. And he said, "Well, we'll just go down to the coast." And I said, "Yeah, okay. Like, you know, go down to the coast there and see what's happening down there." And that's when I got offered that piece of land, talking to this, you know, landowner by accident, purely by accident. And it just fitted in with sort of the plans that I had at the time that I wanted, like, you know, I wanted to retire, but I still wanted something to do. I didn't just want to retire with nothing to do.
Working 12 hours a day is not retire because you work all the time. You think you're retired, you're not retired.
Yeah, it was true. That's true. So,
I'm retired.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But anyway, you know, I enjoyed the whole process of you know, creating this beautiful place.
I bet, yeah.
Creating it because I
This place is nothing like anything I've seen in Dumaguete anywhere.
No.
You know,
no.
it's nothing like it.
You know, I'm a creative type of person. You know, and I always sort of go a bit out on a limb doing things a bit different. You know, I've always done that since a very young age.
The first week I was here, a friend of mine brought me up here just for a cup of coffee and had coffee. So, oh, they got cheesecake and this blueberry cheesecake. So, wow, this is amazing. I love this place. And I just kind of assumed that I could get a nice cup of coffee and a piece of cheesecake anywhere in Dumaguete. Not true.
No,
I never found another piece of cheesecake like you had here.
No. Well, I mean, basically, right, you know, it's thanks to my wife, you know, that, you know, this place has become successful because she's a great chef. She's an amazing chef.
Oh, your wife's a chef?
Yeah, amazing chef.
Now, she's here now?
Incredible. Well, unfortunately, she's not around at the moment. She hasn't been well.
Okay.
You know, she had some breathing problems, right?
So tell me about your wife. Like, where did you meet and how long you been together?
Well, this is the good thing. The only good
Actually,
thing.
let me pause it right here.
Yeah.
We'll do the wife in the next section.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's a really interesting story.
Okay.
So we'll take a quick break here. This
Yeah.
is the end of part 1.
Okay.